morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Human Services Committee. Karen, please call the roll.
Chair Swarzy,
Here.
Member Cahill, Member Garcia, here.
Okay.
Member Desart, here. Member Galassi, Member LaPlante.
Okay, so I am going to appoint Member Evans. Thank you for being here to serve as a temporary member of this committee to establish our quorum. So thank you very much. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Any members have any comments they'd like to share? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to turn this over to Mary Catherine from Finance. She's going to give us a short presentation on our round 2 small agency grant program. So Mary Catherine, it's all yours.
Okay. I thought there might be some new members here today, but since we're all amongst friends here, I can even make it a little bit briefer. Whenever we start the new thing, like to look back and think about the old thing. As a matter of fact, when we were trying to talk about it behind the scenes, Trina, Keith, the ARPA team, Tabasum and I are like, okay, we're going to call this round 2, the new round that we do, not to be confused with round 1. So yes, this is the start of round 2. We're looking back though and thinking about round 1. In particular, we want to think about what we can do better and what actually happened with round 1. Member Evans had asked at one of the earlier meetings, and we had talked about this last week about what the results were from round 1. The slide has a quick recap. I mean, we kind of started round 1 in 23, but the final reporting was due for it at the very end of 2024. We budgeted the same amount as we budgeted that we planned to budget for round 2, which was a little over $1 million. We received 73 applications. They totaled $1.5 million, but we only awarded 37 recipients totaling $654,000. Those were mostly due, we had 2 things going on in terms of coming in at that low number. Once we reviewed the applications, we were oversubscribed for a couple districts, but a number were also undersubscribed, meaning that the districts didn't have many District 1 didn't have many applications. And then for those, I guess this is the crowd of people that all went through it. We had a lot of ineligible cases, and I made like a quick list for myself. We had religious organizations, we had forms that were missing, we had certifications that were missing, we had government agencies apply, it's not 501c3s. We had, car replacement, car repairs, medical expenses, holiday parties, the list, giving out cash directly. So we had a pretty wide range of things that were ineligible. And Connor spent a ton of time working with us on that. As we think about round 2, we want to change the process a little bit, but out of what came out of to date of the round 1, the reports were due at the end of this month. You can see in the very bottom of this, 23 out of 37 of the awarded recipients had not submitted their performance metrics by the end of the year. But for those that did submit in response to questions that we had gotten, we did put together a quick report for you guys. We can email it. I did it in hard copy, which I see Member Rutledge isn't here at the meeting right now. So I'm super glad I'm not gonna get yelled at.
Darcy.
Yeah, okay, so the report kind of goes through, it shows that the performance measures that were included, those were really negotiated by Connor for the most part. And you can see that that they reported since the time of this report, it's dated the 10th. Over the weekend, we got 2 more that reported. Elmhurst Center for Performing Arts and Healing Pups. The deadline is really not that long ago. So we anticipate that, that more people eventually will report. However, if they don't report, we have to be diligent about it because the contracts do have language that we have to claw back whatever they don't spend. So they have to show us that they have eligible expenses and they have to provide the performance metrics. So, so that's like a little bit, maybe we can go to the next slide. That's where we've been. Round two is, what we put together for round two is really largely based on round one. You guys remember that last year, this program was born out of partly ARPA, CARES, and Human Services grant funds. It was intended to not necessarily be like those programs. We didn't have a lot of reporting requirements. It wasn't means testing for it. And it was for those nonprofits that weren't the small ones, the ones that weren't funded under CARES. That was what was originally, you know, the vision that came from the board. It's targeting small nonprofits. It's distributed geographically, and the focus is broad across, you know, economic development, education, housing, behavioral services, you know, this big list of things that are eligible potentially. So, so that's pretty, we tried to stay with that in what we put together on the resolution and in what we're envisioning for the program. However, I put draft on every one of these slides because in our mind, this is still draft. We're bringing it in front of you today so that if we need to make changes, if there's any will to make changes on any of these things, we can do them now. And you know, it's your program. Waiting a week or so to, you know, to iron out exactly what the members want, that's, you know, we're completely flexible. This is your thing. Next slide. We did try, with that said, we did try to clean up a few things that, you know, we did run into a few issues as we implemented the program last time around. The program is a big effort. Many of the people, you know, not just with all the members and all the work that the members did, but we had, you know, the state's attorney did work on it, the GIS team, the IT team, county audit team, the ARPA team, the executive staff. Many people were community services, one, not to say the least of, there were so many people that were involved in this process that we are thinking forward to the next time around to try to streamline it. One of the things that we're thinking about is, one of the things that we plan to do is make sure that the application process includes performance metrics and that we intend to do a more standardized agreement across all of the recipients. So across all of the applications. So that should help us, we think. Other things that, these are all the things that are on this slide are all things that were part of the last program, but they're clarified or maybe changed slightly. So 501c3 status, we're requiring that. We're also going to do a check with this round to make sure that not only do they have a certification of their status, but that their status is active, that it hasn't been revoked. We spent a lot of time chasing down the Secretary of State, making sure that folks were in good standing. Last time around, we allowed them to get in good standing if they weren't in good standing at the time they applied. That was very time intensive for our staff. And this time around, we're like, hey, you have to have your certification on the front end. The agencies have to be located in DuPage County, which means their Secretary of State certificates and their, you know, AG 990 forms have to have that address. That's the thing that's going to make it a lot easier for us to go through and, you know, check to see who's in and who's out. The portal has to be completed. One thing that we added here on the bottom of that first column is that if you fail to report in rounds one, then either your performance metrics or your expenditures, you're not eligible for round two. We think that that's a minimum that we should be able to ask for money that we're going to put out there. One technical thing that we changed with on the revenue side on the top of the second column is Originally, the original program had annual revenues for the most recent year under $300,000. We talked amongst ourselves with community services staff, and occasionally an agency might have have one big donation in one year that might make them ineligible. So, an alternative is we can consider the last 3 years, and the average of that has to be under. So that's just to make sure that, small agencies aren't disqualified because they got one big donation in a year. We included this bullet point about district members not being able to serve on the nonprofits board. That was something that came up last year. This year, we went back to the ethics advisor and kind of confirmed the position on that. We can, if there are questions about that, we can take those at the end. I know I have Connor here today. And then eligible expenses, we're looking at basically running the program a year. So next slide. Budget's going to be the same amounts, $1 million. It's going to run the same with the 6 districts. Districts are going to submit the recommendations. The recommendations have to be unanimous. The agreements, the resolution today says the recommendations go to the Human Services Committee, but informally for the team here, they're going to come to us and then we'll bring them back to the group. Nobody had problems meeting the deadline last year. So if everybody can get the stuff to us a day or two in advance, then we'll have them ready right before the Human Services Committee. It's still going to be $175,000 per district. And the districts we increased to, the grant awards we increased to $30,000 with the $5,000 minimum. Okay, next slide. Payments, this is all the same as last year. They have to get us some information, invoices, W-2s, and the fully executed agreement. And then we'll pay out the invoice in 30 days. The reporting is set to be June 30th, 2026, which means everything should be done at the end of May. Then they have a whole month after that to report on it. They are going to get their money up front though, just as a reminder. So they get their money up front. They have a year to run whatever program they're going to do. Then they have to report to us after that 12 months is over. And like last year, yeah. This is kind of the tentative timeline. Like I said at the beginning, where I think this is flexible for us. We can send this, we'll send the PowerPoint out afterwards, so everybody has a copy of this.
Yeah, I just want the timeline.
Yeah, okay. And then, well, I don't know if you guys want to look at the timeline for a second. This is where we are. If everything looks, if there are no changes, if everything is okay. This is, I think, like.
The portal's open for 3 months, 2 months, right?
60 days.
Yeah, oh, yeah, 60 days. Oh, over 60 days. We left it open. I know we're talking with Joan. We wanted to include, it's a little after spring break, right? That was what was decided in the conversation.
So the portal is
65.
129 to 56?
Or
129 to 44.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's like 60 days plus 65 days. Thank you.
65.
It's just 65 days. Yeah, we just pushed it back a little bit. Yeah.
And how do people access the portal? Where is it going to be located?
It's the same as last year.
But I mean,
It's
for
on
new
the-
people, where would they go?
what's-
How do they find? How do you find the portal?
Um,
If you're a nonprofit who wants to,
we've scheduled all the communications to go out on the 28th to notify everybody. We had talked about doing, communications are gonna go out from county board office. Communications are gonna
and
go
who's
out.
everybody you want to notify?
From,
The board members?
board members, nonprofit groups, we're gonna notify everybody, the finance team is gonna notify everybody that got awards last year or that applied last
Sure,
year.
but I mean,
So-
brand new people won't know about it.
And the press releases, I guess I'm gonna defer to Joan and Mary Keating.
So what
About-
about small little nonprofit B who doesn't read the newspaper?
Well, hang on. Joan or Mary, do you have any comments on this?
I do.
Please.
We will send out a news release and we generally get pretty nice uptake on grant opportunities through small media, particularly our suburban newspapers, the Daily Herald, et cetera. We'll also repeat it on social media. In terms of Mary, I know that she's got a network as well, and I'd like you
Oh,
to
yeah,
address that.
we have, email blasts that go out to literally hundreds of nonprofit organizations, both through Giving DuPage, through the Old Human Services Grant Fund, through the Community Development Commission. We probably have, and then we'll also certainly send notice out to the DuPage Foundation,
Yeah.
who will then share that information with their networks.
If I
So-
may, Mary,
Yeah.
all of our news releases also go to DMMC, which are then translated through the mayors and managers and our DuPage Municipal Communicators Group, which are all the news and public relations people for the municipalities. So if we're pushing it out through municipal sources as well as county resources, as well as nonprofit, Mary's got a very strong communication network with the nonprofit community. I think that's as good an effort as we can do. And I also encourage everyone, we'll post our press releases as Evan always does on our social media. So send it to anybody you think we've left out and let us know if you're getting questions from a certain sector, because I'm happy to send directly. Our communication street is a two-way street. And I will take any direction I can get. So thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that from all of you. I'm just thinking about, non-standard, nonprofits like the food insecurity places or the affordable housing places, obviously will get the portal. But little places like we awarded one last year for CAWA, the Chinese American Women of Action. And, I don't think they fit any of those niches that you would be able to, they found us last year because I told them about it. But I just little organizations like that who don't fit the regular niches for those that I just wondered. So what will happen is Joan will send us a press release and then I'll just send it to little organizations that okay, other questions?
Real quick to
Yeah.
respond to that, save your second question. Ultimately, there's some, as Joan said, a two-way street. Ultimately, there's some responsibility on any nonprofit who needs help to scour the internet and look for those opportunities too. So, will some possibly get lost or will we miss some of those? It's certainly very possible, but I would hope these 501c3s have somebody working on their end as well.
Member Desart, if it helps to know this, I know that DuPage Foundation, because I was a former grant recipient when I was in the nonprofit sector. I know DuPage Foundation gives very, very small grants at certain times of the year. I mean, to the extent that I was receiving a check at the same time, 3 men who entertained at nursing homes, they had their own little nonprofit and they were receiving a check. So I don't want to undersell the network that Mary's got and DuPage Foundation has of the outreach to organizations large and small. They've got tentacles in places you and I have no idea about. And I have a lot of faith in that, but again, nothing's perfect. No communication will reach 100% of people on any given day. So if there's somebody or a sector that you think isn't getting it, I'd be more than happy to send a news release directly. So please communicate with me if
Small
there's
little
something.
kindergarten dance troupe or,
Right,
little places
right.
like that.
right.
Okay,
You'd be
so-
surprised, but good news travels fast.
It does. And I shouldn't be the one bringing this issue up because District 5 had more, applicants than I think any other district, maybe District 6 did. Okay, other question is, what was the thought process on going to a $30,000 award?
We aligned with the procurement ordinance. That's the revised procurement ordinance.
That's the max amount that this committee can approve without going to county board.
Okay. You know, I asked that because it could be troublesome. You know, our little community, everybody knows everybody. And so they could say, you know, never mind. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, nonprofit A could say, how come we got 20,000, but they got 30,000? We got, you know? I don't know.
That's,
You're looking at me funny. I
that's
just,
you
I know.
and,
That's a board member.
District 5 members.
I know, but we'll have less money to give to people if we're giving people 30,000. I guess that's my point.
Sorry, and just to be clear, it also keeps it under the bidding threshold, so 29,99999.
Oh, gotcha.
The one thing I would say regarding that, you don't have to give 30,000. I mean, you can give between 5,000 and 30,000 to every recipient. So that's your district's call of how you want to award
Keep saying
it.
it.
30 is the max, 5 is the minimum. So you might give every single one $10,000 in your district, but 30,000 would just be the max.
So they won't say, hey, how come I didn't get 30,000?
And-
They
and-
did.
And if you remember last year, all the districts awarded, depending on the program, it varied greatly because some of them only needed 7,500 to do whatever program. That's what was awarded. It was
Right, right.
different for every single program, every single
That's a good
nonprofit.
point. I'm asking these specific questions because, you know, I wish Sadia and Sabah were here, but
We're gonna make
having
this
lunch.
presentation next week too.
Okay, we're having lunch on this Friday to talk about the MIP and some of this stuff together and
Tell them to
how
watch
we're
Human
gonna
Services.
prepare. Yeah,
Tell
I'll
them
tell
to
them
watch
watch the
Human
video.
Services.
Because I mean, everybody's talking about this now and I just make sure I get it right. And if I can, never mind. I just $30,000 it is.
We can,
And then somebody who gets 15 is gonna say, I'm gonna get
No,
30,000.
I mean, I think it's appropriate to leave as is. And it might benefit. Yeah, maybe somebody only needs 8, but the other person needs 30,
Yeah.
not 25. And so, I mean, there's some advantages to going up to 30 as
I just
well.
wanted to ask those questions and I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Back to you, Mary Catherine, did you have more?
no, just if there were any questions.
Yes.
One quick question on some of these reports that haven't got in here. I'm looking at my own district and I'm like, is this something you want us to follow up with these? Or is this something that finance is gonna be following up?
We have only sent one round of communications with it. So what we did with some of the LARPA stuff that we did was like, we tried a couple times and then we started copying you guys if we didn't get responses and
Oh, okay.
and talking with the members.
I didn't
So
have it on your thing.
Well, they haven't done it yet.
then.
Oh, you haven't done it yet?
Yeah, then you didn't have any problems.
No, I do.
Meaning
I do
that
have
in
problems.
your district, you weren't, there were no
LARPA,
problematic
the
ones,
LARPA, we're
but
talking
I'm
something
pretty
else.
sure that others
What?
here.
We're talking about the LARPA money.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm talking about, well, your presentation.
yeah, no,
We haven't
so for
done this yet.
LARPA and just our accounts
This is
receivable
76.
process in general, we do a couple rounds before we start copying, before we start escalating with
Got
them.
it. So you've already done,
So,
only done one.
We've only done one
So,
right
okay.
now because the deadline was really just at the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
So, yeah, but we're getting ready to do the next round. So stay tuned. Yeah, you may see that coming.
And,
Okay.
and that's a great question, Paula, because I have several in here who have not submitted any report at all. And I would hate to see them not be eligible for the next round. So,
Yeah.
you know, as Paula asked, is this something I should be reaching out to some of these people? Or not?
You can.
Yes. Yes, and let them know.
And they do have a form already to send back to you. They've received a form or something?
They have, yeah, they go on to the portal and they have directions about how to do it, which we just recently sent out the directions again.
Oh,
So they should have, they have an email, it's pretty self-explanatory. so
okay.
So just to confirm, you've sent out one
One round,
one round of reminders.
Yeah.
When would you send out a second one?
this week, probably. Yeah,
This week.
yeah.
Great, thank you.
So real quick with logistics, just so, can I go through?
Well, I have one more question that
Yeah.
needs to be addressed. Nothing in here talks about sharing the money because that came up last year, certainly with the districts that didn't get the applications. to me, it was a good idea not to be able to do that, but I'd like to get some feedback maybe from Nick and you on that. If you have any thoughts?
I mean, ultimately, it's your program. I mean, if you guys want, and that was logistics wise, what I was gonna say is today you have the program as Mary Catherine presented in the PowerPoint on your committee. My recommendation, if it's generally there, pass it today. It's gonna be going to finance and board next week. This same presentation will be done. We can make changes on the floor. We can postpone it, whatever you want. But if you know you have changes that you would like from what's shown here, that we can introduce next week, please send it to us. We'll clear it with state's attorney, we'll go through all of that. But if you know of anything you want, like the sharing, I mean, that's something that I don't think we necessarily, it's not gonna impact us either way. If that's what the board would like, I mean, at the end of the day, it is your program. So there's certain areas that we can't go legally, but that one's totally up to you guys.
That's just about sharing?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
what happened to the extra money we didn't use last year?
Yeah.
Allocated it.
Yeah, it got rolled back
To-
into ARPA interest. That was ARPA interest.
Yeah.
So basically, I think you were about $350,000 short of spending it. Just got rolled back, right back in, and then that was available for the other expenditures that the board approved.
We didn't carry it over. We didn't carry it over.
I just-
So let me ask,
Send them back.
let me ask this small committee, any thoughts? Let's say District 6, District 3, who didn't use all their money last year, District 4, District 5, who had. So do we say, okay, and how do we do that? I mean, that's a little tricky because you may have multiple districts asking for multiple amounts of money.
My thoughts real quick, and I know she has to leave for Dave's transportation, so if we have any other staff, or any other board members out there we can grab, that would be great. Because we're gonna need a quorum. Sharing is great, except that we know that your district members have gone over all the applications, you know what they need, you know, you're familiar with those and stuff like that. So if all of a sudden you say, can you share their money with us? We don't know anything about who's going to money, and I don't want anybody to get, like, if somebody asks for 15, but then you're like, well, they really need 30. I don't want to be doing that, because I want to give them exactly what they need, because I want to use the money wisely. So I'm a little cautious about maybe sharing from district to district, because we're all doing the work on our own nonprofits that are coming in. So that's where my caution stays. So it's like, I think right now it'd be best if we just stayed with our money in our own districts. That's my thought.
Sean?
You know, you're asking for our opinions, and my
Yeah.
opinion is this. You know, we've talked a lot about hard times ahead now that the ARPA money is gone. So I really do appreciate the idea of letting us live within our means, and then the extra money that we don't spend, because some districts didn't get as many
Applicants.
applicants as other districts, that extra money stays in the ARPA interest, and then we do something important like, you know, over Christmas when they said they needed, you know, X amount of money, well, that came out of affordable housing, but you know what I mean? If the food pantry says
insecurity, something
we're
like that.
desperate for $500,000, then we can say, oh, we've got it right there. That's my opinion.
I agree.
Lucy?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great idea. I'm all about sharing. I was a little marginal on one of the organizations that we did grant money to in District 3, but we didn't get enough applicants. So, you know, we just kind of went with the maximum, but and I'm happy to share, but I think you're right, like, things come up later. So if we want to just put that money away and then, you know, as a board, we vote on something else, I think that's a really good
Yeah.
pot to pull from.
Good.
So let me ask Nick or Mary Kat. If this board of four, this committee of four believes that we should not be sharing that money, should we have it in writing in the ordinance?
Yeah,
We
if
have
that's
it
the-
around, we put it in the resume, yeah.
We can absolutely, I mean, if that's the will, I mean, at the end of the day, this committee was intended to be the kind of the place where this program runs through. And if that's the will of this committee, I would recommend, so there's no misunderstanding. I mean, as you pass that item, why don't you direct staff and state's attorney to add that verbiage for next week?
Okay.
And then that way we'll get a little bit closer to the mark, and we don't have to make that amendment on the floor. Would that be appropriate?
Fine, yeah, just, I'll note that, and sorry, I try not to poke my nose in where I'm not asked something expressly, but, as far as, making an amendment, it currently doesn't provide for sharing. So you really wouldn't need to amend anything into it because it's not in there.
We could add the wording so it's extremely clear, because I know last year,
We
that
talked about it.
exact issue came up and we went back and forth, so I would recommend
happy to
if
handle it.
that's the will of this committee, and I do, having a rainy day fund, like a little bit of money, our
Right.
vendors hang out, not the worst idea, because emergencies pop up, there are funding issues, so it's not bad. We could add probably a sentence in there and then roll that the next week.
So why don't
Just to
you-
make it
Better to be
clear.
You'd like to add a sentence in the recitals that indicates that the money, any unused funds shall be, for lack of a better term, swept into the ARPA interest fund and shall not be redistributed amongst other.
Yes.
We'll figure out a sentence or two,
Yeah.
if that's the will.
Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Well, we're not on the item.
We're not on the item, but, we'll get to that. So, okay. Thank you, staff, because this is an open foot. Does any other staff, Mary, do you have anything you'd like to offer? Anybody else like to offer anything on?
And to be, I just want to say, to get to this point, I know member Schwarzy, member Paulie Garcia, they spent a lot of time with staff to get it to this point, and I do appreciate the amount of time you two spent on this, because it's a difficult program, and they helped us refine it even more.
And I just want to remind people of two things. The broad categories that are up on the screen in part of the presentation and in part of the program are just that, broad categories. There's some of them are broader, some of them are smaller. The statutory authority is not always as broad as the category would imply. So as we go through these things and you see things that you get maybe upset about or concerned about, I'm happy to explain what the statutory authority is, but I wanted to try and give you guys some general broad areas of, that you can work in, and I'm happy to explain around it in specific instances. So I just don't want anyone to say, pull the slide and say, well, this says you can do everything for housing. Well, it's broad, but there's exceptions.
Sure,
So
sure.
that's all I get.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you everyone very much. Okay. So we lost member Chang Evans, so under the authority of County Board rules, I appoint member Childress to serve as temporary member of this committee to establish quorum. So thank you, Michael, for being here.
My pleasure.
We miss you on this committee, but we're glad to have you today, so. All right, thank you all. We'll move on to our agenda items. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes 25-0317, the Human Services Committee regular meeting from Tuesday, January 7th. We got a motion. Did I hear a second?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve FIR 1825 acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the Aging Case Coordination Unit for program year 25 in the amount of $10,000 for the period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now, I'm going to, tell me if I'm doing this right, I'm going to move to amend item FIR 1725 to add a sentence in there discussing not sharing the revenue. Is that good enough?
Substantially in conformity with the detailed recitation I made earlier.
Second.
Okay, any discussion here?
Whatever he said.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now I'm gonna move to approve item FIR 1725 as amended. Approval of round 2 of the small agency grant program in the amount of $1,050,000.
Second.
So moved.
He moved.
Oh, yes, okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve FIR 1925 acceptance and appropriation of interest earned on investment for the Family Self-Sufficiency Program in the amount of $1,365. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve FIR 2125 acceptance and appropriation of the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Community Services Block Grant for program year 25 in the amount of $1,269,609.
Is there a motion?
Motion? Did you motion or?
I
No,
said.
I motion.
Motion.
No, second.
And second, okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion on HSR 325, recommendation
So
of
moved.
approval of a first modification to the Community Development Block Grant Agreement with Bridge Communities, Inc., Stability Program for Families Experiencing Homelessness, adding eligible reimbursement of costs for 2 additional direct service staff to the project scope. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? I do have a quick question. They're adding direct staff, but there's no
There's
more
no
money
change in the-
needed.
There's no change in the dollar amount. Their
Okay.
original scope, just identified a single staff person that would be charging to the grant. The way they broken out the workload, there's multiple people actually charging to the grant, but the dollar amount
Okay,
remains the same.
okay. Thank you for explaining. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion on HSR 425, 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan and 2025 Annual Action Plan element of the Consolidated Plan, DuPage County Consortium. First reading, acceptance of the 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan and 2025 Annual Action Plan element of the 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan for Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnerships, and Emergency Solutions Grant programs to qualify and receive the Department of Housing and Urban Development grant funds. We had a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion to approve 250185, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Henry Schein Inc. for deluxe top over bed tables for the DuPage Care Center for the period of January 22nd, 2025 through January 21st, 2026 for a contract total not to exceed $16,485. Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Roll call.
roll call. Thank you.
Member Desart?
Aye.
Member Childress?
Yes.
Let's see, who am I missing? Okay, Member Garcia?
Aye.
And Chair Swartz.
Aye, thank you very much, Mayor. Take a motion to approve 250201, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Equipment International Limited for laundry equipment repair services and parts as needed for the DuPage Care Center for the period of March 1st, 2025 through February 28th, 2026, for a contract total not to exceed $23,750. We had a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Garcia?
Aye.
Member Desart?
Aye.
Member Childress?
Yes.
Chair Swartz.
Aye, thank you. Okay, we have a long list of budget transfers here, so we'll try to get through these. I'll take a motion to approve 25,275 transfer of funds from the IT equipment account to the IT equipment capital lease account in the amount of $5,100 to reclass the capital equipment balance to capital lease sub-account to cover fiscal year 25 copier lease for senior services. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion on 250323. Transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments accounts to the regular salaries account and the benefit payments account in the amount of $15,000 to adjust shortages in fiscal year 24 within the financial services budget. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd like to speak on all these real quickly, if I
Yes,
may.
please.
So the Care Center, we actually do put a budget of COLA in as a placeholder of 2% in our budget each year. Because we don't know what the board's going to decide upon. So those are under salary and wage adjustments. And so at the end of the year, we got to move those into the buckets where they need to go for each department. In addition, we had the benefit of all the ASME wage adjustments. We put that $1 million placeholder under contingency, and now we got to move it all back into the buckets. So I apologize for the long list, but that's.
Okay.
No, thank you.
We understand.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve 25,277 transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account and the contingencies account to the regular salaries account, part-time help account, benefit payments account,
Second.
employee medical and hospital insurance account in the amount of $42,900 to adjust I'm going to say that word this whole time, shortages in fiscal year 24 for administration. Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I will take a motion on 250279, transfer of funds from the part-time help account, the salary and wage adjustments account, and the contingencies account to the regular salaries account, overtime account, benefit payments account, employer share IMRF account, employer share social security account,
Second.
and employee medical and hospital insurance account in the amount of $357,700 to adjust shortages for fiscal year 24 for dining services. Okay, thank you. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion on 280. Transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account, the regular salaries account, the part-time help account, the temporary salaries account, other professional services account, and contingencies account to the overtime account, employer share IMRF account, employer share social security account, and employee medical and hospital insurance account in the amount of $1,370,840
So moved.
to adjust shortages for fiscal year 24 for nursing services. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion on 28281, transfer funds from the salary and wage adjustment account to the benefit payments account in the amount of $8,000 to adjust for shortages in fiscal year 24 within the social services budget line. Any discussion here? All in favor, say aye.
Second. Second. Yeah.
Oh, we did not get a second. I'm
Second.
sorry. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve 25282, transfer of funds from the regular salaries account to the overtime account, part-time help account, benefit
So moved.
payments account, employee medical and hospital insurance account in the amount of $19,750 to adjust shortages for fiscal year 24 within the recreation department. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion on 25283, transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account, the regular salaries account, the part-time help account, and the temporary
Second.
salaries account to the overtime account, holiday pay account, benefit payments account, and the employer share IMRF account in the amount of $33,850 to adjust shortages for fiscal year 24 within the 421 buildings cafeteria payroll budget lines. Got a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Take a motion to approve 25284, transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account, the regular salaries account, and the contingencies account to the overtime account, part-time help account, benefit payments account, employer share IMRF account, employer share social security account, and the employee medical and hospital insurance account in the amount of $42,700 to adjust for shortages for fiscal year 24 within the volunteer services payroll budget lines. Okay, we had a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion on 25285, transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account, overtime account, and benefit payments account, and the contingencies account to the regular salaries, part-time help, employer share IMRF, employer share social security, and employee medical and hospital insurance accounts in the amount of $66,600 to adjust shortages for fiscal year 24 for laundry service. Did we get a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion on 25286, transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account, the overtime account, the part-time help account to the regular salaries, benefit payments, employee medical and hospital insurance accounts in the amount of $142,800 to adjust for shortages for fiscal year 24 for housekeeping services. Do we get a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion on 25287, transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account and regular salaries account to the overtime and part-time help accounts in the amount of $14,000 to adjust shortages for fiscal year 24 within the inpatient pharmacy payroll
Second.
budget lines. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion to approve 25289, transfer of funds from the salary and wage adjustments account to the benefit payments and the employee medical and hospital insurance accounts in the amount of $14,000 to
Second.
adjust shortages for fiscal year 24 within the rehab and therapy services payroll budget lines. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion on 25296, transfer from the regular salaries account to the benefit payments account in the amount of $2,450 to cover the benefit payments paid out during fiscal year 24 within the community services block grant. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion on 25309, transfer of funds from the regular salaries account to the benefit payments account the amount of $1,675 to cover employee benefit payments paid in fiscal year 24 within the homeless management information system grant.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion on 25-310, transfer of funds from the regular salaries account to the benefit payments account, in the amount of $29,950 to cover employee benefit payments paid out in fiscal year 24 within the LIHEAP grant. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion on 25-311, transfer of funds from the regular salaries account to the benefit payments account, in the amount of $415 to cover employee benefit payments for fiscal year 24 within the weatherization grant. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And finally, I'll take a motion on 25-312, transfer of funds from the regular salaries account to the overtime account in the amount of $445 to cover employee overtime payments paid out during fiscal year 24 within the weatherization grant. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. I will take a motion to combine informational items 10A, 10B, and 10C.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion to approve item 25-290, GPN 00125 for program year 25 Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $3,663,504. Item 25-291, GPM 00225 program year 25 Home Investment Partnerships Program in the amount of $1,556,110. And item 25-292, GPN 00325 program year 25 Emergency Solutions Grant in the amount of $286,741.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you all. Janelle, no residency waiver, so DuPage Care Center update.
We do not have any units under quarantine.
Yay.
That's it.
Now's a good time to get a tour or something.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Construction is going well, even with the cold weather and
Yes,
everything.
yes, we expect IDPH to come in the week of the 27th, potentially to do our initial inspection, the architecture.
Okay, thank you very much. Mayor Keating.
Just briefly, regarding item 7B, the 2005 to 2009 consolidated plan and 2025 action plan, and then also related are the informational items. These are our first, so the 5-year consolidated plan lays out the priorities for the county for the community development block grant and home funds and the emergency solutions grant over the next 5 years. And this is sort of the guiding document that will help us determine how we fund projects. It includes projects to be funded in 2025. However, we don't have a 2025 budget yet. So our plan is based on status quo from 24 to 25. As you probably know, we're still on a continuing resolution for the 2025 budget. I've heard various accounts of what might happen with the 2025 budget. I think the best case scenario is they do a continuing resolution or they do an omnibus package and just keep everything in 25 status quo. 26 will be a complete, it's completely up in the air as to what will happen with these types of grants in 26 and beyond. So if it actually gets cut in 25, we would be coming back to the committee. We've made plans for what projects would not get funded or how we would accommodate, how we would accommodate a small cut. A large cut would probably require a whole lot more conversation. But in order to keep our program plan moving, HUD still requires us to submit a plan by February 15th. So even without a federal budget, they still ask us to tell them what we're going to do with the money that hasn't been budgeted yet. So we'll keep you posted as we move forward. Hopefully, we'll probably know more in March, if not before.
We did have in legislative led by Member Sart, we spoke to our federal lobbyist, and he was up and he didn't really have, the one thing he mentioned that he's heard a lot of is environmental cuts, but he didn't really comment on human services at all. So,
Okay, that's all I have.
any questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mary. Appreciate it. Do we have any old business? Seeing none, do we have any new business? Okay, without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.